What's up, everybody? Hope you're doing good. Today's a beautiful day. Once more, we're here again. Thank you for being part of this. I really appreciate you guys. I see the flow, so many people coming, and I'm getting the comments and stuff like that and recommendation. I really appreciate that. Thank you for being part of our group. I appreciate you guys. Okay, so today we're going to talk about something very interesting. Somebody very interesting. Her name is Claire Daly. I don't know if you heard about her before. You know, most of the time we tend to say that people from the other side are usually racist. Not all of them, of course, but we complain a lot about racism, and I can understand that due to things that we've experienced in the past, from slavery to neo-colonization, and the things that we're seeing right now. Some of the powerful countries trying to meddle into internal businesses in countries in Africa. Very simple example is Uganda, currently going through some issues. If you haven't seen the video, I suggest you go have a look at it. It came to the LGBTQ story. Okay, so today we're going to talk about Claire Daly. What I want to say first is not everybody from Europe and the USA who doesn't look like us is necessarily racist and doesn't want good things for us. Her name is Claire Daly. She's an Irish politician who has been a member of the European Parliament from Ireland for Dublin constituency since July 2019. So here we're going to watch a video about her, then I'm going to make a comment right after. Let's go.
State sponsor of terrorism is a term of US law. It doesn't exist in EU law. But a Zelensky advisor called for it in the Parliament magazine, and here we are again reporting for duty. And all it will do is make peace harder to achieve. Exactly, of course, what the extremists want. No peace, no off-ramps, all bridges burning, and Ukraine a permanent abattoir in a suicidal holy crusade against Russia. So, if you want to start naming state sponsors of terrorism, let's do it. European sponsorship of Israeli terrorism in Palestine, Western sponsorship of Saudi terror in Yemen, ISIS, the product of French, American, British, Turkish and Gulf sponsorship in Syria and Iraq. Decades of right-wing US-backed terrorism against the Cuban Revolution, the Contras in Nicaragua, death squads in Guatemala, in El Salvador. Remember Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, horror after horror, terror after terror. There's nothing constructive about the pot calling the kettle black. Would you ever cop on, start championing peace and end the war which is patently in the interests of EU, Ukrainian and Russian citizens?
Oh my God, this is a very strong lady. As you can see, in the Parliament of the European Union, she's speaking against everybody. You know, usually with the situation in the world, they tend to paint everybody with the same brush, saying there's terrorism here, there's terrorism there, these people are not good people, and we are the only good people. And she came very frantically, calling out the hypocrisy of most Western nations, saying, let's talk about terrorism, okay? Look at the things that you have achieved in the past. Isn't that terrorism? Before we call on to other people, calling them terrorists about things they're doing in their countries. What about what we've done and what you guys have done here, acting like you haven't done anything? Very strong figure. In fact, she reminds me of Harriet Tubman. For those of you who know, Harriet Tubman is also called the Moses of Americas. She was a slave, African-American slave who went on liberating other slaves. Yeah, a woman who went into places, different town, liberating other slaves to go to the north. Because in Southern America, or Southern United States was really suffering from slavery, and a lot of black people were held as slaves. And Harriet Tubman worked very hard to liberate a lot of people. She called on to people. The people that heard her doing her work followed her up to Canada. Let's watch another video and I'll make another comment.
I voted against this resolution. Of course, Russia's invasion of Ukraine was a crime of aggression, and in a just world, that crime would never go unpunished. But we find ourselves in a world of our own making. This March marks the 20th anniversary of the horrific crime of aggression against Iraq, perpetuated by the coalition of the willing, including our very own Poland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Hungary, Bulgaria, Romania, Slovakia, the Czech Republic, Netherlands, Denmark and Spain. I want to see war criminals punished, but after 20 years of impunity for the brigands who wrecked Iraq, the proposal before us is just pure fantasy. International law is upheld by consensus. It either applies to all states equally or it doesn't work. And those before us who move this motion, really the goal is not justice. It's to scupper peace, which is the only way to stop the slaughter now. If you want to put Putin behind bars, fine, but you've absolutely no credibility whatsoever unless you bring Bush, Blair and all his European counterparts.
So she's very clear. If you want to put Putin behind bars, that's okay. It's okay. But you must make sure you bring Tony Blair, George Bush and all other people that were contributed to the destruction of Iraq and other countries to the same justice, or otherwise it's a joke. I mean, somebody as strong as this. She says what's happening in Ukraine has to be punished in a normal world. But you cannot just accuse Russia of doing what it's doing today if you, European countries, went to Iraq and did worse than that, finishing millions of people and destroying so many lives. This is hypocrisy, in a stance. So, like I said earlier, just because 50 people have an opinion that is diverse from your opinion, doesn't make them right and you wrong. So just because you won against 50 doesn't mean you're wrong and they're right. So sometimes we need to learn to stand our ground, especially if your opinion is based on your values and you certainly have listened to somebody who's strong enough to correct you when necessary. Stand strong in front of your door, in front of your values and your beliefs. That's very important. This woman is extraordinary. She's not afraid of anybody. You know, unfortunately, guys, most of these parliamentarian people, all these deputies and all these people working for parliament in Europe are usually sponsored by very powerful entities. Yes, they earn a lot of money coming from big companies to vote certain laws that go into profiting those companies. Do you understand? Let's say a pharmaceutical company will pour money onto you, sponsor you in a way that's unbelievable, and whenever you go into meetings, you're going to make sure you vote a law that's going to benefit these companies. In other words, sending them back the business that you brought to you. And this doesn't limit itself there. It could be arms company. It could be any sort of companies. They will pour money onto you and you will try to serve them back in the best of your ability. Now, this woman is clearly not part of this game. She comes to these meetings with a very different agenda. I mean, you have a European person here facing other Europeans and telling them, you guys are wrong. Stop acting like you're perfect. You are hypocrites. You are hypocrites in what you're doing. Look at what you've done. You know, the subject of Israel, not many people talk about it. People are very scared to talk about that. Yeah, it's a subject. People are scared to be called names when they talk about our subject. Just looking at this lady, Claire Daly, stand up in front of everybody and say, stop pretending like you're not seeing what's happening. Stop acting like negative things only come from countries you don't like. It's a sign of a lot of power. Of course, again, she came forward. I mean, this woman has spoken many, many times about many things that nobody want to talk about. I don't know if you remember at the time of COVID, I'm not going to say the words because we get censored. She stood up and said, you know what? These measures that you're taking are too drastic. We need to take things slow. I don't know if you remember, there was a time when they're trying to force everybody to take what they needed to take very quickly, very urgently, without any support, without any research. And she was like, no, we're not going to go like this. We can't just push this way. And because she's spoken many times against war in Ukraine, saying, why don't you call people together to sit down so they can have a discussion and finish the war? And now Ukraine has become a battlefield where Ukrainians are being, language like that are not very much tolerated or accepted into European Union. Because when Europeans want to do something, they want everybody's support. They don't want anybody to stand against their will, anybody to try to talk them out of whatever they're trying to do. I mean, we would applaud that if everything European Parliament was doing was good. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Because sometimes they do things to support companies and businesses who invested in individuals for their interest. So they will try to vote a law or vote something going into that way, benefiting those companies. Now, people like this lady, Claire Daly, most of the time stand, even though there aren't many of them, stand against those things. And a few times she's been called names. She was accused after she suggested that all these big powers in Russia sat down and discussed about Ukraine to find a solution, peaceable solution. She was called names. They say, oh, how much are you getting paid by Russia? And you can listen to her response.
Sorry, President, I am sorry, but the colleague here has just asked me how much money I receive from Putin, which I find highly unacceptable and outrageous, and I'd like that remark withdrawn. It's implying bribery and corruption, which clearly I have never been party to. So could you please clarify your remark? And withdraw it.
She asked him to withdraw what he's...
You asked me how much money I got from Putin. Zero. What do you think? It's an outrageous violation and undermining of a legitimate point of view. You're as authoritarian as the reactionary friends you give out about. You're a disgrace.
Excuse me.
You're a disgrace. You're just as bad as them.
Colleague Daly, here plays the music. Yeah. I want to clearly express that the question, how many money do you get, is a clear insinuation that there is money which is paid. So, colleague, I call you to the order. And I do not intend to discuss on that.
You see what I'm saying? So, very strong. If you say something that goes against what we are saying, that insinuates immediately that you are getting paid for whatever you're saying. And unfortunately, let me tell you something. Most of these guys, they look old and mature. They evil. Yes, their goals and plans, you can never begin to believe what they can actually do to the population in the name of money and power. And it's just very good to see people like this still exist. Not all white people are bad. Let me put it that way for you. Not all of them. For some of you who know, many years ago, in the time of Harriet Tubman, there was a group of white people that were called abolitionists. These people did not want slavery. They were white. They fought against other whites to get black people liberated, in the United States at least. Yes, they fought against other whites. Some of them were, yes, because it was treason. Like, how can you support him over me? I look just like you. He's just a, you know? And these people fought very hard. And some of them, they were called Quaker. I see some of the boxes. You see some of the boxes. I know in Africa, you eat that in the morning. You call it, in South Africa, it's called jungle oats or oatmeal. In other places, different names. That Quaker, however you pronounce it, it's symbolic for those people who used to fight other white people to save black people from being enslaved. Like my dad always said, in every village you go, you will find a white cock. And when I'm talking about cocky, I'm talking about the chicken, male chicken. I see you going. I see you thinking about funny things. That's what I'm saying. In every country you go, you're going to find a white chicken. They always exist. So every country you go, every place on earth, you'll find good people. If you look good enough, if you're patient enough, you know, and it's not a good thing, not necessarily good. Not always a good thing to put everybody in the same box. Props again to Claire Daly for standing up for what's right, at least for the time being, and for being strong enough to push back whenever she felt the push. Let me know how you feel about this. It's always good to hear from you guys, you know, say something so we can all participate and discuss and have a discussion, you know, a constructive discussion and grow our community. God bless.